champ now.
Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, champ?
I'm surprised at you. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean? What I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I was on a Bum of the Month tour.
Bum of the month? I would have been a bum because compared to you.
You don't know.
What's happening, my people? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Miss Cass, the drunk Irishman. Salute to everyone and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, the Canelo-Ggg Trilogy. The Canelo-Ggg Trilogy has the family today. Back at the beginning of another big week of boxing history. We're going to start it out with the Trilogy Classic Fight Series Monday with Canelo and Ggg. Not going too far back this time. We're going to look at the three fights, after backgrounds of fight, aftermath of all three fights. We're going to look at their boxing styles, all of that. And then we're going to look at some of the, time permitting, the best top 10 super middleweights currently. Since their last fight was at super middleweight. First two was at middle, last one at super middleweight, time permitting. But all that today on Cast Sports The Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. How was everybody's weekend? Right now it's over, right? But we're gonna have a nice little week of boxing history for you here. Starting with the Trilogy today. Another one, Triple G, there they are. Teams holding them back. I don't know if that was stage promotion or whatever, but it was a good trilogy. But first, we're going to start out with our fight of the day, okay? Like we always do. So let's get ready to get started. Wait a minute, I think that big card is this weekend, right? The Pitbull and Roach. Yeah, big one coming up this weekend. Yeah. Let me pull it up right quick because we got some pretty good names on that one. Take a quick look at it before we get started. We're going to get started because we got a lot to get to today. I think it's this weekend. This is December, first weekend December, first Saturday of December. And this is the first Friday of the month, so we're going to look at an active boxer this Friday, okay? I think it's probably going to be the Master. You know, we look at an active boxer the first Friday of every month. This Friday is probably going to be, I think it's going to be the Master, okay? The Monster or Usyk, one of those two. Yeah, San Antonio, Texas. Roach and Pitbull. Yeah, great card. That's excellent matchmaking there, Lamont, Roach and Pitbull. And the haters was dragging Tank for bringing Roach to 135. Now he's at 140. You can't make this shit up. What the haters got to say now? He's at 140, right? But it's all good. What's up, Will's daddy? Him? How are you today? Salute. Oh, that's Jaw. What's up, Jaw? And Kids All Love One. Here we're gonna look at the Triple G and Canelo trilogy. But yeah, they was the haters were getting on Tank. Oh, you breaking up at 130 pounds to 135. Now that 130 pounders fighting at 140. So what you got to say now, right? Probably shouldn't have been left 130. Okay. But salute, your real Hattie. Ken Saul Love One in the building and the drunk Irishman. Okay, let's get that's a good card though. Lamont and Pitbull. Janabek, Landy Lara, that's a good one. With Shaggy and Fulton, we've been waiting on that one. Jesus Ramos, Shane Mosley Jr. Frank Martin back in action against Francis Bartholomew. Man, that is a great card. Isaac Lucero, Roberto Valenzuela Jr., Luis Nunez, Hector Sosa. That is a great card. Can't wait for it to happen. Okay, let's go. We're going to get into our fight of the day now. So without further ado, today's fight of the day. I got my kitten locked in here. I think he's trying to get out. Okay. Now for today's fight of the day, this is what we're going to talk about, Joe Louis and a few different fights guys he fought against. Okay, that's how we're going to do it today. Miguel Daza. What's up, Miguel? Said Tank should vacate and retire. Yeah, we'll see. He got this documentary coming out. I guess we're going to learn something in that. But salute, Miguel. How are you today? Good to see you. Cast Sports, the box historian. Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., bringing you all that boxing history. Okay? So let's see. The fighter, we usually do a classic fight to start the show, but we're just going to talk about Joe Louis today and some guys he fought against, okay? So Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber. There he is. Here we go. It was 1914, and so entered a new era of boxing in America. Joseph Louis Barrow was born, parented by mother Lily Barrow and father Monroe Barrow. Nobody just yet knew how special this young boy was, and if it wasn't for Joe's friend Thurston McKinney persuading him to throw away his violin and take up boxing, the boxing world might have never been what it is today. Joe Louis was perhaps the greatest heavyweight champion there has ever been. He made a record 25 defenses of the title and reigned for an almost inconceivable 11 years and 8 months. He compiled an outstanding record of 68 wins, 3 losses, and no draws, with 54 wins by way of knockout. All 3 of Joe's losses were to fellow Hall of Famers. And in his time, Joe defeated 6 men who were each at one time or another the heavyweight champion of the world. In rematches, Joe was undefeated, standing at 10 wins and no losses, 9 of those being knockouts. The statistics of Joe's record are extremely impressive when one delves deep and realizes a lot of negatives happened during his ill-advised comeback. If Joe had never came back after retiring in 1949, he would have had an even more amazing record of 60 wins, 1 loss, and 51 knockouts. Joe Louis displayed an offensive arsenal so devastating and so crushing that just the name of the man sent shivers down his opponent's spine. Ex-King Levinsky, who at one point in the first round against Joe turned to the referee and begged him to stop the fight. Combining blinding hand speed, bone-crushing power, unerring accuracy, debilitating body blows, and fabulous combinations, Joe Louis's highlight reel is just one spectacular knockout after another. He was truly the greatest puncher of all time, and is so recognized by the majority of the world's boxing historians. Nobody had quite a complete arsenal as Joe Louis. If you were to name the 5 top specific punches, for example, the best left hooker or the best jabber, Joe Louis would be at the top or near the top of all the lists. It is that punishing power that brings people to the fight game, having that knowledge that a fight could end in one devastating punch. And Joe Louis had dynamite jam-packed into his fist like nobody else. There are plenty of examples of this power in some of his one-punch knockouts. Lee Ramage knocked out Cole with 1 left hook. Art Sykes was knocked out for 30 minutes with a single straight right hand. Paulino Usgadun's teeth were driven straight through his mouthpiece with a single right hand. Usgadun later got up from his bench in his dressing room only to collapse back onto the floor in a heap. He drove the man's teeth through his mouthpiece. Then got back to his dressing room and collapsed. There's Joe and his trainer, Jack Blackburn. On his best night, Joe Louis could do whatever he wanted with you. He could pick peck you bloody from the outside, wearing you down until you were ripe for picking, or he could come out with all guns blazing and finish you early, like he did Max Schmeling and Buddy Bayer. Once an opponent was hurt, there was no getting away. Joe Louis was one of the best finishers of all time. Once he had that look in his eye, his opponents might as well have just get out of the ring. What made Joe so lethal was his accuracy and the way he was so economic. He would land with those dynamite punches every time, and he wouldn't show you where they were coming from. After all, it's the punch you don't see that gets you. Here's him and Max Schmeling. What's up, Thomas Hill? Just a little quick chat about Joe Louis to start the show, and some of the we're gonna talk about some fighters he fought. You actually got people to say Joe Louis' resume was weak, so I'm gonna name some of the fighters he went in there against. He fought the last 5 men who were champion, who preceded him as champion. Okay. From like 1920, when he became champion in 1937, from 1929 to 1937, he fought everybody that was champion in like that 8-year period. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. Okay, let's continue. Yes, the punch you don't see that gets you, though. And Joe would never let you see where his punches were coming from. And there was no getting away from Joe on the inside. Unlike Ali or Tyson, you couldn't crowd Joe to neutralize his power. No, Joe Louis had some of the best inside skills anybody has ever seen. His uppercuts were slicing, his hooks crunching. Even if it did take him a little while to figure you out, in the end, it was going to be lights out. Oh, wait, what is this cat? Well, you want to get out? Excuse me for a minute. Let this dummy out. You ain't getting back in. Come on. Come on. Come on. You're sitting there making that noise now. You don't want to go. No, he's sitting there meowing, then he won't go nowhere. He okay. Well, he just want to play. I ain't got time to play. I'm busy. Okay, I'm sorry. Look at this crazy little kid. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Joe. He was probably the best, could be the best finisher ever. Once he got you in trouble, that was it. Lights out. Joe Louis inflicted some of the worst damage on his opponents you've ever seen. Braddock, Carnera, Valento, Godoy, Schmeling, all went away with terrible injuries. Schmeling spent weeks in the hospital in an attempt to recover from the horrible first-round beating in the hands of Joe. The vertebrae was broken in his back and had been driven into his kidneys. Wow. It wasn't just on the offense that Joe was marvelous. He was a supreme counterpuncher, and his defensive abilities were excellent. Joe would parry punches and counter with jabs, feint, block shots, duck, and he was a master at slipping punches. Many people say, but Joe Louis carried his left hand low. He was open to a right hand. This is somewhat true. That's what Max Schmeling got him with. But what some people don't realize is that this was often a trap. As Joe's style was primarily based around counterpunching, he often let his opponents into him in order to counter with his own crisp punches. And many people claim Joe Louis had bad competition. This is not true either. Just because a fighter isn't recognized today or didn't give the champion a tough time, it doesn't mean they were bad fighters. Perhaps the reason why Joe's opponents are often perceived as weak is because he dominated them so convincingly and made them look weak. I'm going to name like 20 of his opponents briefly, and you judge for yourself about his resume. Okay, let's look at some of Joe's resume. Kind of like Boots today, people will say, well, Boots ain't fight nobody, but he just make them look like nobody, right? That's what Joe Louis did. He dominated so badly, people thought these guys were C level, but Joe Louis just made them look like they were A level against anybody else. Just Do Boxing in the building. What's up, Just Do? Coming up at 4 p.m. Just Do Boxing. Okay, yeah, just a little talk about Joe Louis for the fight of the day today segment. These are briefly some of Joe's opponents, okay? Lee Ramage, good, solid, up-and-coming prospect. Joe Louis fought him twice. Knocked him out in the 8th round of the first fight, and the rematch knocked him out in the 2nd round. Primo Carnera, ex-heavyweight champion of the world, and not nearly as bad as people make out. Even if he was unskilled, his size alone could give people problems. Joe Louis beat him by a 6th round TKO. King Levinsky, good, solid fighter, who was on a winning streak until he met Joe Louis. Joe Louis, 1st round knockout. Max Baer had just lost his title to Jim Braddock and was eager to get it back. Still a dangerous fighter. Had a right hand that had already killed 2 men. Joe Louis by 4th round knockout. Charlie Ratliff, another solid fighter, came into the Louis fight with a record of 55 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw. Joe Louis, 1st round knockout. Paulino Uscadun, yet another solid fighter, had fought the likes of Max Schmeling, Max Baer, Primo Carnera, and Tommy Loughran. Destroyed by a Louis right hand. Joe Louis, 4th round TKO. Max Schmeling, only man to beat Joe Louis in his prime. Ex-heavyweight champion of the world, a cagey, clever counterpuncher with a hard right hand. An underprepared and overconfident Joe Louis was knocked out in 12 rounds by Schmeling after receiving a terrible beating, only to avenge the fight 2 years later. He knocked Schmeling out in 2 minutes and 4 seconds in what was one of the most brutal fights ever. So Schmeling knocked him out in the first fight. Louis knocked Schmeling out in the 2nd fight, 1st round. Only man to beat him in his prime before his first career when he came back after retirement. He still advised comeback with the IRS. He had a big IRS bill, and he came back to get money. That's the only reason Rocky Marciano fought him. He was Rocky Marciano's idol, and Rocky fought him so he could help get a big payday and help pay off that tax bill he had. Other than that, Rocky would have never fought Joe Louis. Jack Sharkey, an aging but still good fighter, ex-heavyweight champion of the world. Louis beautifully knocked him out in the 3rd round. Al Ettore, decent fighter who was on a bit of a winning streak until he faced Joe Louis. Louis by 5th round knockout. Bob Pastor, a good fighter who was again on a bit of a winning streak. Took Joe Louis the distance in their first fight. Joe knocked him out in the rematch in the 11th round. First round was a 10-round decision, 11th round knockout in the 2nd fight. James J. Braddock, this was the fight Joe Louis won his first world title, the one he kept for 12 years. James J. Braddock, a former journeyman, now the world heavyweight champion, coming into the Louis fight. Braddock was a tough customer. He had a lot of heart and decent boxing skills. Joe Louis inflicted severe damage on his opponent and knocked him out in the 8th round. Tommy Farr. These are just some of the people that say Joe Louis' resume was weak, but He made his opponents look weak because he dominated them so much. Tommy Farr, decent British fighter, took Joe Louis the distance. Think of Tommy Farr as Muhammad Ali's Henry Cooper, but with a better chin. Louis 15-round decision. John Henry Lewis, very good fighter who had knocked out the likes of Elmer Ray and Tiger Jack Fox. He was on a winning streak by the time he fought Joe. Louis first-round knockout. Tony Galletto, two-ton Tony. Though not a great fighter, Galletto could take a lot of punishment. He had a left hook like a mule's kick. He caught Joe with that left hook in the third round and put Joe on the mat, right? He caught the angry Louis by surprise in the third round and dropped him. But in the next round, he took a severe beating. Joe Louis stopped him in the next round, TKO fourth round. Arthur Godoy. Godoy was like the 1930s equivalent of the 1970s George Chuvalo, a crouching, swarming fighter with a very good chin and an awkward style. He took Joe Louis the distance, losing a close decision in their first fight, only to be battered from pillar to post in the rematch. Louis 15-round decision. First fight, 8th round TKO in the second fight. And that's saying something when you stop Arthur Godoy. You know, he was the George Chuvalo of that era. Great chin. One of them cement mixed with iron chins. Abe Simon. A big man at 6'4", 255 pounds. That was huge for 1930s boxing. 6'4", 255 pounds. The average heavyweight was right around 200 then, okay? Simon was a tough cookie to crack. He had a knockout win over Jersey Joe Walcott and a decent record of 36 wins and 7 losses. Joe Louis knocked him down 4 times en route to a knockout win. Joe took him out in the 6th round in the rematch. 13th round in the first fight, 6th round knockout in the second fight. Lou Nova, solid fighter with a record of 26 wins, just 2 losses, 4 draws, who had beaten the likes of Max Baer and Tommy Farr. Joe Louis easily knocked him out in the 6th round. Buddy Baer, the bigger brother of Max Baer, older and bigger, right? Really, literally the bigger brother of Max Baer. Buddy stood at almost 6'7" and weighed 250 pounds. 6'7" was unheard of back then, right? And he could punch hard, and he possessed a gaudy record of 49 wins, 6 losses. He knocked Joe Louis through the ropes in the first round, but Joe came back and immediately took control of the fight, flooring Buddy 3 times in the 6th round. When Buddy's corner wouldn't leave the ring, he was disqualified. Yeah, they said that Joe had illegally hit him after the bell or something, and they was protesting, wouldn't get out the ring, so they got disqualified. They wanted Joe Louis to get disqualified. They ended up getting disqualified, right? And then they had a rematch. In the rematch, Louis pulverized Baer again, this time in the first round. A short right hand spun Baer 360 degrees. First round, first fight, Buddy got disqualified in the 6th round, made Joe Louis mad, accused him of cheating. Joe Louis knocked him out in the first round of the second fight, hit him so hard he spun him around 360 degrees. Billy Conn, one of the greatest light heavyweights ever. Billy Conn was also beating up the best heavyweights of the time. He didn't carry too much power, but was fast and slick and put combinations together beautifully. Joe Louis entered this fight underweight and dehydrated in an attempt to get below 200 pounds, so the media wouldn't say he was picking on a smaller man. But this left him drained and weak. Louis kept calm, took his time, and eventually took control of the situation, knocking Conn out with a measured combination in the 13th. In the rematch, Conn was knocked out in 8. Louis 13th round decision, second fight, 8th round knockout. And that was the fight where Joe Louis needed a knockout, right? It was 15 rounds. Billy Conn had the fight won And then Joe Louis got him out of there in round 13, and he needed that knockout. That was right in the middle of that streak. History would have been very different. He wouldn't have had those 25 straight defenses. That 12-year run wouldn't have happened. Billy Conn almost ended all of that. But Joe needed the knockout and got it. Tammy Moriello, with a record of 69 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw, Moriello was no pushover. He had a good punch, which has stopped the likes of Bruce Woodcock, previously undefeated before that knockout against Moriello, and Lou Nova. After surprising Joe Louis early, Joe turned up the heat and demolished Moriello. Louis' first round knockout. Jersey Joe Walcott. Jersey Joe was a great technician, a hard and unpredictable puncher who was a future world champion. Walcott, in arguably his best performance, took Joe Louis the distance in a highly controversial loss. The rematch was far more decisive, with Joe Louis knocking Walcott out in the 11th round. Flurry of lefts and rights. Louis, 15-round decision, first fight, 11th round knockout in the second fight. Okay. This is post-career Joe Louis. Unlike a lot of today's fighters, or should we say entertainers, Joe Louis was never arrogant or cocky and never gloated over a fallen opponent. He was respectful and good to his country. He represented America in the Second World War by defeating German Maximilian and served his time in the Army and donated 2 of his purses to the Army and Navy relief funds. Whether you talk about Joe Louis in a head-to-head sense or just being a great champion, Joe Louis is number one, is at or near the top on every list when you're talking pound for pound. Mike Rim in the building. There you have it, Joe Louis. That was the Fight of the Day segment. Salute, Mike Rim. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We're right at the beginning of another big week of boxing history. And now we go to this week's trilogy, or this week's fight series, because they're not all trilogies. Triple G versus Canelo-Alvarez. Canelo versus Triple G is today's trilogy. Okay?
All right. There we go.
The Canelo Triple G trilogy. How's everybody this afternoon? We got the big card this weekend, man. Ooh, this is a good one. Lamont Roach and Pitbull. We got Cool Boy and O'Shaquie. Frank Martin back in action. Somebody else big on that card, too. It's a great card. Full of good fights. I know Pitbull and Lamont Roach, O'Shaquie, Cool Boy, Frank Martin back in action. That's a great card, though. But the Canelo Triple G trilogy. So Canelo Alvarez won the trilogy against GENNADY Triple G Golovkin with a final record of 2 wins and 1 draw. The fights took place in September 2017, September 2018, and September 2022. All on the Mexican Independence Day weekend. Remember? All 3 of those. Now, the 3 fights were all highly anticipated and competitive, with the first 2 being particularly close and the decisions generating some controversy among fans and media. The third fight was the most decisive victory for Canelo. Fight 1, September 16th, 2017, in a very controversial split decision draw. Most observers felt Triple G deserved the win, as he was the aggressor and outlanded Canelo in most of the rounds. But one judge actually scored the fight overwhelmingly for Canelo, 118 to 110. Okay, We're going to talk about that later too. Adelaide Bird. 118 to 110. Fight number 2. September 15th, 2018. Canelo won by a narrow majority decision, handing Triple G his first professional loss. The rematch was another close back and forth battle, though Canelo employed a more aggressive style than in the first fight. Fight 3, September 17th, 2022. And we're going to go deeper into them in a minute. Okay. Okay, fight 3. September 17th, 2022. Canelo secured a clear, unanimous decision victory to close the rivalry. Triple G, 40 years old by that time of the third fight, seemed a shell of himself for much of the fight and couldn't keep up with the younger Canelo until the later round. Okay. Mike Grimm says, Lara calling out Crawford. He must think he's going to beat Janovic. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Don't sleep on Lara. I give him an excellent chance this weekend. Lara, one of those guys like a B-Hop, that Archie Moore, that aged Father Time just ain't affected him like he did everybody else, you know. Father Time, like B-Hop and Archie Moore, Father Time went up to Lara's door and Lara ran Father Time away. Couldn't get off my property, you know. Yeah, some athletes like a Tom Brady, some athletes just like that, man, you know. Father Time just got to wait a while. And yeah, I give Lara an excellent chance Saturday to win that one. Yeah, that's the one I was trying to think about, Mike. That's the other one, the other big one on the card. I was saying Cool Boy and O'Shaquie and Pitbull and Lamar Roach and Frank Martin on the card, and yeah, Lara and Janovic. Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. I give Lara an excellent chance. Okay, let's talk about the two styles. Then we're gonna get into fight number 1. Canelo first. There's Canelo. Now Canelo has an evolved fighting style, still active. Canelo has an evolved fighting style that's a mixed up pressure fighting, counterpunching, and exceptional ring intelligence, characterized by subtle head movement, calculated power shots, and strategic use of the ropes. Canelo uses a high guard to draw opponents in, then evades punches with head and body movement to set up damaging counter punches. His style also includes potent body attacks and the ability to use feints to create openings for powerful combinations. Okay, Triple G, that's a brief description of the boxing style. I guess Triple G is retired. You know, Triple G style. Triple G's boxing style was an aggressive and relentless pressure fighter, often described as a blend of the Soviet style and the Mexican style. He was known for his powerful stiff jabs, vicious body punches, and constant forward movement, using his ring-cutting ability to trap opponents and create openings for his devastating power shots. His style was also marked by an unorthodox punching style, with looping shots and a strong, durable chin that made him difficult to hurt. Triple G. Okay, let's go to fight number 1. Canelo Alvarez versus GENNADY Golovkin 1. I think it was called Supremacy. Yeah. Okay, Supremacy. Yeah, that was 1. Supremacy. Okay, excuse me for a minute. Okay. Yeah, title number 1. Supremacy. All right. Okay. Yeah, Supremacy. That was the name of the first fight. It is right there. How's everybody today? How was everybody this weekend? Mine was quiet, peaceful. No kids or grandkids or nothing, just me and Miss Cat. Best kind. All right, here we go. Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin 1. Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin 1 was billed as supremacy. It was a professional boxing match contested for the unified WBA, WBC, IBF, IBO, Ring Magazine, and lineal middleweight championships. The fight was on September 16, 2017 at T-Mobile Arena on the Las Vegas Strip. It was televised on HBO pay-per-view in the United States, on Box Nation box office in the United Kingdom, and on Space in Latin America. Despite Triple G outlanding Canelo in 10 of the 12 rounds, according to CompuBox, the fight ended in a controversial split draw, with Dave Moretti scoring the fight, 115-113 for Triple G. Adelaide Bird scoring the fight, 118-110 for Canelo, and Don Trella scored it, 114-114, a draw. Adelaide Bird's scorecard especially was subject to a very large amount of criticism, with many critics describing the decision as a robbery. Okay, a lot of people called it a robbery. That 118-110 was a robbery. I don't know what he was looking at. Abel Sanchez, Triple G's trainer, said she had her card filled out before the fight even started. Okay. Now, the controversial outcome led to the organization of a rematch, which was tentatively scheduled for May 5th, 2018. Now, the fight was canceled after Canelo tested positive for a banned substance in March 2018 and formally withdrew, pending hearings with the Nevada Athletic Commission in April. After facing a suspension until August 17, 2018, Canelo and Triple G agreed to reschedule the rematch in September 15, 2018. But let's get back to the first fight, okay? We'll get to the rematch in a minute. This is the first one, okay? Let's look at a little background of it now. Fight number 1. Little background. Here they are in the face-off. Okay. Stay with me for one moment, please. There we go. I went way too far. All right. Little background to the first fight. Canelo Triple G trilogy. Okay. Following Canelo Alvarez's victory against Miguel Cotto in 2015, talks began between the Golovkin and Alvarez camps over the future WBC title defense. In the end, an agreement was ultimately reached to allow interim fights before the fight to take place. In the words of WBC President Mauricio Sulaiman, to maximize the interest in the highly anticipated showdown. The fight was anticipated to take place well into 2016, okay? Well into the year. On May 18th, 2016, a few weeks after knocking out Amir Khan, Canelo vacated the WBC middleweight title, which resulted in Triple G being immediately awarded the title by the WBC, who officially recognized him as their middleweight champion. So Canelo vacated and the WBC awarded it to Triple G immediately. Okay? This is all leading into the first fight. Immediately after his win over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. on May 6, 2017, Canelo announced that he would next fight Triple G on the weekend of September 16, 2017 at a location to be determined. Triple G joined him in the ring during the announcement to help promote their upcoming fight, accompanied by his trainer Abel Sanchez and promoter Tom Loeffler. Speaking through a translator, Canelo said, "Golovkin, you are next, my friend. The fight is done. I've never feared anyone since I was 15 fighting as a professional. When I was born, fear was gone." When Triple G arrived in the ring, he said, "I feel very excited. Right now is a different story. In September, it will be a different story. A big drama show. I'm ready. Tonight, first, congratulations to Canelo and his team. Right now, I think everyone is excited for September. Canelo looked very good tonight, and 100%, he is the biggest challenge of my career. Good luck to Canelo in September." In the post-fight press conference, both fighters came face-to-face again and spoke about the upcoming fight. On May 9th, Eric Gomez, president of Golden Boy Promotions, told the LA Times that Canelo had an immediate rematch clause in place on his contract, whereas Triple G, if he lost, won't be guaranteed a rematch. Oscar De La Hoya later also revealed in an interview with ESPN the fight would take place at the full middleweight limit of 160 pounds with no rehydration clause, meaning Golovkin and Alvarez both would be able to gain an unlimited amount of weight following the official weigh-in. On June 5th, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada was announced as the venue of the fight and would mark the first time Triple G would fight in the state of Nevada in his career. The AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Madison Square Garden in New York City, and Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California missed out on hosting the fight. Eric Gomez of Golden Boy Promotions said in a statement that Canelo would fight for the IBF, meaning he would participate in the second day weigh-in, which the IBF requires that each fighter weigh no more than 10 pounds over the weight limit. So couldn't go but 10 pounds over 160. Triple G could be unlimited because he wasn't fighting for the IBF. But Canelo had to come in no more than 170 because the IBF was on the line for him. Although he said there was no word on whether Canelo would fight for the WBC title, Canelo claimed that he would not be fighting for it. On July 7th, 2017, Golden Boy and K2 Promotions individually announced the tickets had sold out. Golden Boy promoted Canelo, K2 promoted Triple G, remember? But the tickets had sold out for the September fight. July 7th, both promotional companies announced that the tickets had sold out. Now the purses. Canelo was guaranteed $5 million. Triple G was guaranteed $3 million. Pretty good card too. Jojo Diaz was on it. Diego De La Hoya, Ryan Martin. Okay, so now let's look at the fight. Let's look at the fight now. Okay. This is the first fight between Canelo and Triple G in their trilogy. Okay? The fight. On fight night, in front of a sold-out crowd of 22,358, Canelo and Triple G fought to a split draw. 115-113, 118-110, 114-114. Now, ESPN's Dan Raphael and HBO's Harold Letterman both scored the fight 116-112 in favor of Triple G. Judge Adelaide Bird's scorecard of 118-110 in favor of Canelo was widely ridiculed. Many observers felt that Triple G had won a narrow, closely contested fight. And while a draw was justifiable, a card that wide in favor of Canelo was inexcusable. Nevertheless, Bob Bennett, director of the Nevada Athletic Commission, said that he had full confidence on Byrd going forward. Despite the controversy, several mainstream media outlets referred to the fight as a classic. Yeah, that was ridiculous. 118, 110. He was obviously paid to get a fight to Canelo. The first round found both fighters finding their rhythm. Canelo using footwork to become a slippery target, using hard counter shots to the body and head, as Triple G seemed to try to establish his power jab, being the busier of the two. Round two found Canelo starting to pick up his pace, landing hard body shots throughout the round, while Triple G had a hard time finding a hard shot to damage Canelo. So far, each judge had Canelo up on the scorecards 20-18 or 2-0. Round three had Triple G pick up the pace, starting the round surprising Canelo with left hooks and right hands, as Canelo would later land harder shots later in the round, mostly uppercuts and hooks. Two of the three judges gave the round to Triple G, while one judge gave the round to Canelo. Soon, however, the pressure from Triple G came to Canelo as he would wear down the Mexican star. For the next 6 rounds, Triple G would become the aggressor, backing Canelo up with harder shots. Canelo did have spots of success, landing an eye-catching shot every now and then. Still, during the middle rounds, here we go. Okay. Still, during the middle rounds, particularly between 4 and 9, Canelo started each round quick, but seemed to tire out after a minute, with Triple G taking over and doing enough to win the round. The championship rounds were the best for Canelo, according to the judges, as he would exchange with Triple G. Both men missing, but the judges had Canelo winning the last 3 rounds. The judges had a draw with the scores 114-114, 115-113 for Triple G, and 118-110 for Canelo. The draw saw Triple G make his 19th consecutive defense, just one behind middleweight great Bernard Hopkins for the record. CompuBox stats showed that Triple G was the busier of the two, landing 218 of 703 punches with 31%, while Canelo was slightly more accurate, landing 169 of 505 punches for 33%. Triple G also outlanded Canelo in 10 of the 12 rounds, okay, but still lost. Aftermath, 10 of the 12 rounds, but still got the loss. Okay, wow. Aftermath of the fight. Speaking to Max Kellerman after the fight, Triple G said, "It was a big drama show. The scoring is not my fault. I put pressure on him every round. Look, I still have all my belts. I am still the champion." So Triple G came in as champion, draw, so he kept all his titles. Now, Canelo felt as though he had won the fight, saying, "In the first rounds, I came out to see what he had. Then I was building from there. I think I won at least 8 rounds." Canelo talking. "I think I won at least 8 rounds. I felt I won the fight. I think I was superior in the ring. I won at least 7 or 8 rounds. I was able to counterpunch and make GENNADY wobble at least 3 times. If we fight again, it's up to the fans. I feel frustrated over the draw." Triple G's trainer, Abel Sanchez, believed Judge Adelaide Byrd, the one that scored 118-110. Triple G's trainer, Abel Sanchez, believed she had her scorecard filled out before the first bell to begin the first round even rang. At 118-110 was ridiculous. Canelo ruled out another fight in 2017, claiming he would return on Cinco de Mayo weekend in May 2018. At the post-fight press conference, Canelo said through a translator, "Look, right now, I want to rest. Whatever the fans want, whatever the people want and ask for, we'll do. You know, that's my style. But right now, who knows if it's in May or September. But one thing's for sure, this is my era. This is the era of Canelo." Triple G's promoter Tom Lawford stated that they would like an immediate rematch, but Triple G, who prefers fighting at least 3 times in a calendar year, reiterated his desire to also fight in December later that very year. Now, the fight surpassed Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Canelo Alvarez to achieve the 3rd highest gate in boxing history. ESPN reported the fight generated $27,059,850 from 17,318 tickets sold. 934 complimentary tickets were given out, according to the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Canelo Alvarez sold 16,146 tickets to produce a live gate of $20,003,150. The replay of the fight, which took place a week later on HBO, averaged 726,000, peaking at 840,000 viewers. The LA Times reported the fight generated 1.3 million domestic pay-per-view buys. Not bad. Although HBO didn't make an official announcement, it is believed that the revenue would exceed $100 million. All right. Okay, there's fight number 1. Okay, let's go to the second fight in the series. Take a look at the Canelo Triple G series. Let's go to fight 2 now. Okay. Let me refresh the chat. Make sure I don't miss anybody coming in. Everybody smash the like, subscribe. All right. Mike Magic. What's up, Mike Magic? Just came into the building. Salute. Canelo Triple G series today, Mike. Had a great week. Great Thanksgiving weekend, Mike Magic. Good to see you on this side of it. Okay. Now we shall go to the second fight in this great trilogy. Well, the first 2. The third one was, like Just Do said, pay-per-view spawn match. Just Do named that perfectly. That third fight was the pay-per-view spawn match. Clearly just a money grab. But now the second one was a good one. A lot of people thought Triple G got robbed again. But let's talk about it and make our own decision on what we think happened. Okay? There we go. That's 2. Which was, got the name of this one. It's called something. I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, let's get started with the second fight. Canelo and Triple G. Okay. Canelo Alvarez versus GENNADY Golovkin 2 was billed called Final Judgment. Okay, that was what it was called, billed as Final Judgment. It was a professional boxing rematch between Canelo Alvarez and GENNADY Golovkin. Took place back at the T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada, September 15th, 2018, almost a year to the day. You know, first one was on the 17th, this one on the 15th. Canelo won this one by majority decision. Okay. All right. Okay. So the fight was originally scheduled to take place on May 5th, 2018, Cinco de Mayo weekend. But in March 2018, 2 months prior to the fight, Canelo failed a drug test for clenbuterol, and was suspended by the Nevada Athletic Commission for 6 months. Canelo formally withdrew from the fight, but renegotiated the rematch to occur in September after his suspension lapsed. The fight was named Fight of the Year for 2018 by the Ring magazine. Okay, let's look at a little background of it. Yeah, this one was Fight of the Year. Yeah. The 2018 Ring magazine. So, the world's 2 top middleweights had collided the previous September and had fought a high-quality contest that had ended in a controversial split draw after the full 12 rounds. But with pundits and fans alike making cases for both fighters having won the fight, it was not so much the result of the draw that caused the controversy, but rather the 118-110 scorecard in favor of Canelo by Judge Adelaide Bird, which was in stark contrast to the scorecards of 115-113 for Golovkin by Dave Moretti and the 114-114 even scorecard by Don Trella. Yeah, that 118-110. Like Abel Sanchez, Triple G's trainer, said, she had that filled out before the fight even started, man. So, immediately after the controversial ending, talks began for a rematch between Canelo and Triple G. Canelo stated he would next fight in May 2018, whereas Triple G was open to fighting in December 2017. ESPN reported that Canelo, who only had the rematch clause in his contract, must activate it within 3 weeks after the fight. On September 19th, Golden Boy Promotions president Eric Gomez told ESPN that everyone on their side was interested in the rematch, and they would hold discussions with Tom Loeffler, Triple G's promoter, in the next coming days. Ring TV reported that the negotiations would begin on September 22nd. On September 24th, Gomez said the rematch would likely take place in the first week of May 2018. Or if a deal could be worked, the fight could take place as early as March 2018. Okay? So, despite ongoing negotiations for the rematch, at the 55th annual convention in Baku, Azerbaijan on October 2nd, the WBC officially ordered a rematch. Golden Boy president Eric Gomez told ESPN, regardless of if they did or didn't order the rematch, we're going to try to make it happen. We'll do whatever it takes to make this fight happen. On November 7th, Gomez indicated the negotiations were going well, and Canelo would make a decision in regards to the rematch in the coming weeks. It was believed that Golden Boy would wait until after David Lemieux and Billy Joe Saunders fought for Saunders' WBO title on December 16th, 2017, before making a decision. On November 15th, Eddie Hearn, promoter of Daniel Jacobs, stated that he approached Tom Loeffler regarding a possible rematch between Triple G and Jacobs if the Canelo Triple G rematch fails to take place. On December 20th, Eric Gomez announced that the negotiations were close to being finalized after Canelo gave Golden Boy the go-ahead to write up the contracts. On January 29th, 2018, HBO finally announced the rematch would take place on May 5th on the Cinco de Mayo weekend. Both fighters claimed that this time the judges would not be needed, with both men promising a knockout. The venue for the rematch was not confirmed until February 22nd. Madison Square Garden in New York City had been in the running to host the fight, but it was eventually decided that the stage would be the same as the first fight, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. According to the WBC, unlike the first fight, Canelo would fight for the WBC title this time. All right, so then came the cancellation. Okay, then came the cancellation. Remember? The fate of the fight was put in jeopardy on March 5th, 2018, when Canelo failed 2 random drug urine tests collected on February 17th and February 20th, 2018, for the banned substance clenbuterol. The Nevada Athletic Commission opened an investigation, and Canelo was temporarily suspended on March 23, 2018, pending a hearing on April 10th. In the hearing, Canelo would face the possibility of a suspension of up to 1 year. Tom Loeffler, Triple G's promoter, stated that Triple G intended to fight on May 5th, regardless of who his opponent would be, Canelo or whoever. Tom Loeffler said Triple G was going to still fight on May 5th. Former two-time junior middleweight champion Demetrius Andrade made an offer to fight Triple G if Canelo received a long-term suspension. And also, IBF number one contender Sergey Derevyanchenko made himself available to replace Canelo. Okay? The next day, Nevada Athletic Commission Chief Bob Bennett filed a formal doping complaint against Canelo, which delayed the disciplinary hearing to the commission's next monthly meeting on April 18th. ESPN.com writer Dan Raphael felt that this delay made it more uncertain that the fight would go ahead, while T-Mobile Arena had already announced the previous day that it would offer full refunds on tickets. So everybody pulling out now. Canelo failed the test and got suspended. On April 3rd, 2018, Canelo officially withdrew from the fight. Eric Gomez explained that given the current regulations in Nevada, we have been advised, and it is unfortunate that Canelo won't be cleared to fight in May. We are hopeful this matter will be resolved, and we are hoping Canelo will be cleared so we can reschedule the fight for August or September, right? Because the suspension was retroactive, so it had already started way back, retroactive back to February when he first tested positive, so he wouldn't be available to fight in September. And they did have to fight in September, rescheduling. Canelo was issued a 6-month suspension by the Nevada Athletic Commission. As suspensions are retroactive from the date that the first failed test was collected, which was February 17th, 2018, that meant the suspension ended on August 17th, 2018. So he was still able to fight on Mexican Independence Day. He wasn't going to have it on Cinco de Mayo, but they just moved it to September. Now, according to Triple G, on April 27th, before he defeated Vanes Matarajan, a fight with Canelo in the fall was still a priority. During a conference call, Triple G stated it was the biggest fight in the world and beneficial for all parties involved. Although Triple G stated the rematch had a 10% chance of happening, Eric Gomez, the Golden Boy, and Triple G's promoter, Tom Loeffler, agreed to meet and start negotiations back up after May 5th. You know, because Canelo had got a suspension and they knew it was going to be over in August. So in May, they said they're going to start negotiations back up, okay, because Triple G was fighting Matarajan on that date. Now, one of the main issues preventing the rematch to take place was the purse split. Canelo wanted 65-35 in his favor, the same terms Triple G agreed to initially before the suspension. But now, Triple G wanted the straight 50-50 split. He's like, you got suspended, so hey, well, I'm going to take 65-30. I want 50-50 now. So that was the holdup when they started renegotiating. On June 6th, Triple G was stripped of his IBF world title due to not adhering to IBF rules. The IBF granted Triple G an exception to fight Matarajan, although they would not sanction the fight, and they ordered Triple G's team to start negotiating a fight with mandatory challenger Sergey Derevyanchenko by August 3rd, 2018. The IBF released a statement in detail. On June 7th, Triple G's team stated they would accept the 55-45 split in favor of Canelo. The split in the initial rematch negotiations, Triple G had accepted 65-35 split in favor of Canelo. On June 12th, Golden Boy Promotions gave Triple G a 24-hour deadline to accept the 57.5 to 42.5 split in Canelo's favor, or they would explore other options. At this time, Golden Boy was already in light negotiations with Eddie Hearn for a fight with Canelo and Daniel Jacobs instead of Triple G. So they gave Triple G 24 hours, or we gone. At the same time, Triple G's promoter, Tom Loeffler, was working closely with Frank Warren to match Triple G with Billy Joe Saunders at the end of August. So everybody talking about walking away now. But on June 13th, 2018, it was announced that Canelo and Triple G had finalized the deal to hold a rematch. September 15th, 2018, back at T-Mobile Arena. Now, although it went past the negotiation deadline imposed by Golden Boy, it was reported that an unknown tweak employed by MGM Resorts International executives was a Hail Mary that reinvigorated the negotiations. Triple G revealed to ESPN that he had agreed to 45%. Canelo started training for the fight on June 14th and stated his intention to apply for his boxing license on August 18th. It was confirmed that both fighters would not physically come face-to-face with each other until fight week. A split-screen press conference took place on July 3rd. On September 3rd, due to a majority vote of the panel, the vacant Ring Magazine middleweight title would be contested for in this fight. Doug Fisher wrote, "We posed the question to the ratings panel, which in a landslide voted in favor of the magazine's 160-pound championship being up for grabs when the two stars clashed at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas." Okay, let's take a look at the weigh-in for this one. What's up, Sam? What's up, Sam? Sam said, good, could have been great trilogy. Triple G didn't open up the last fight, but first two were very good. Yes, they were, Sam. But salute, Sam. Appreciate you stopping by today. We get ready to talk about the second fight now. All right. Sam N4OB. Salute. N4OB. Okay, let's get back to it. Let's take a quick look at the weigh-in. Weigh-in for the second fight, okay? The weigh-in took place at the T-Mobile Arena in front of 9,000 fans. Triple G took to the digital scale first and weighed 159 pounds. Now the IBF, so they can come back whatever they want to because that 10-pound rehydration clause not in effect because remember, Triple G got stripped of the IBF, okay? So yeah, no rehydration clause. So Triple G came in at 159.6. Canelo weighed slightly lighter at 159.4, basically the same. The traditional face-off was not without controversy, as this was the first time the two boxers had been face-to-face during the build-up, with both camps trading insults. Triple G was calm and collected. However, Canelo went straight to the face-off, getting as close as he could before both camps intervened, cutting the face-off short. Okay, so now the fight. That was a pretty good card too. Chocolatito was on it. Who else was on that one? Jaime Munguia was on it. Brandon Cook was on that card. Yeah, that was a pretty good card. Because Chocolatito and Triple G had been on a lot of cards together around that time, remember? Now, the purses. According to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Canelo would earn an official base purse guaranteed $5 million. Triple G was guaranteed $4 million. But with the pay-per-view profits, Canelo could make up to $40 million and Triple G could earn up to $30 million, but guaranteed $5 million and $4 million. Canelo could go to 40, Triple G could go to 30. The fight. Number 2. In front of a sellout crowd of 21,965, the fight was again not without controversy, as Canelo defeated Triple G by majority decision after 12 rounds. Judges Dave Moretti and Steve Weisfeld scored the fight, both 115-113 in favor of Canelo, and Judge Lynn Feldman scored it 114-114. The result was disputed by fans, pundits, and media alike. Of the 18 media outlets scoring the fight, 10 ruled in favor of Triple G. 7 called it a draw, just 1 scored the fight for Canelo. The scorecards showed how close the fight was, with the judges splitting 8 rounds. After 9 rounds, all 3 judges had their scores reading 87-84 for Canelo. Okay? Okay? Now, the fight was much different than the first fight in terms of action. Canelo, who was described by Triple G's team as a runner after the first fight, altered his style and became more aggressive. The first round had Canelo and Triple G starting more cautiously than in the first fight, attempting to figure out each style. Both fighters made adjustments in their strategies for the rematch. Canelo fought more aggressively, pressing forward and landing effective counterpunches. Triple G, known for his relentless pressure and power punching, tried to control the pace of the fight, but found himself unable to dominate Canelo as he did in the first encounter. Triple G attempted to establish his jab as Canelo would throw mostly power punches. Canelo would win the next 2 rounds on each scorecard, landing the harder, more explosive shots to the body and head while being aggressive. On the other hand, Triple G still had not established his jab yet and was on the running side. The next 2 rounds had Triple G be more active, particularly in round 4, throwing and landing more punches than Canelo. In rounds 6, 7, and 8, Canelo would take control of the fight again, landing harder punches, while Triple G had trouble with the more aggressive style of Canelo. Okay? Okay? The tide turned in rounds 9 to 11 as Canelo seemed to tire out, becoming less active, while a more fresh Triple G stunned Canelo multiple times. The 10th round had Canelo start the round strong, but Triple G landed the hardest punch of the fight, hurting Canelo. But Canelo showed good defense, dodging a load of power punches from Triple G. In round 11, a stunned Canelo would lose his aggression, backing up to the ropes, while Triple G seemed strong, having his best round of the fight. And the final round was up for grabs on the scorecards, each judge having Canelo up going into the final round, 105-104. Both men slugged it out, landing as many power punches as they could. The final decision had Canelo winning 115-113 on 2 cards, and 1 judge had it 114-114 a draw. Canelo made good use of his body attacks, landing 46 compared to Triple G's 6 landed. Comparable box stats showed that Triple G landed 234 of 879 punches thrown, 27%. Canelo landed 202 of 622 for 33%. Triple G outlanded Canelo in 8 of the 12 rounds, right? While Canelo landed more power punches in 9 of the 12 rounds. Okay? So the aftermath of this one. Clear win for Canelo this time. Clear win for Canelo this time. Aftermath. In the post-fight interviews, through a translator, Canelo said, "I showed my victory with facts. He was the one who was backing up. I feel satisfied because I gave a great fight. It was a clear victory." He continued, "That was a great fight, but in the end, it was a victory for Mexico. And again, it was an opportunity. And I want to shout out to my opponent, the best in the sport of boxing. I am a great fighter, and I showed it tonight. If the people want another round, I'll do it again. But for right now, I will enjoy time with my family." Now, the outcome of the rematch sparked further debate among boxing fans and analysts. Some felt Canelo's victory was well-deserved, while others believed Triple G had once again been denied a rightful win. Despite the controversy, the rematch between Canelo and Triple G remains one of the most significant fights in recent boxing history. Triple G did not take part in the post-fight interview and made his way backstage, where he received stitches for a cut over his right eye. He later responded to the defeat. "I'm not going to say who won tonight because the victory belongs to Canelo, according to the judges. I thought it was a very good fight for the fans and very exciting. I thought I fought better than he did." Triple G's trainer, Abel Sanchez, who was very critical of Canelo following the first fight, said, "We had a great fight, the one we expected the first time around. I had it close going into the 12th round. We had good judges who saw it from different angles. I can't complain about the decision, but it's close enough to warrant a third fight. Canelo fought a great fight. Congratulations." And both fighters were open to a third fight. Okay. Now the fight generated a live gate of $23,473,500 from 16,732 tickets sold. This was lower than the first fight. However, the fourth largest grossing gates in Nevada boxing history. The fight sold 1 million pay-per-view buys, lower than the first fight. However, due to being priced at $84.95, it generated more revenue than the first fight at around $94 million. In total, the second fight grossed about $117 million in revenue. Okay? And there you have it, the second fight. Now we go to the third and final fight in this trilogy. Triple G and Canelo. Third and final one. All right. Hope everybody's enjoying the show. Triple G Canelo 3. Coming right up. ALVAREZ Golovkin 3. Well, not really the rubber match. Well, yeah, because Triple G could have tied it because there's 1-0 and Canelo with 1 draw. So yeah, he could have tied it up with a win. You know, usually rubber match you thinking 1-1, but yeah, could have tied it. So okay, so let's see what happened in the third and final fight in this series. This is a short one here. Canelo Alvarez versus GENNADY Golovkin 3 was billed as just the Trilogy. That was the name of it, the Trilogy. This was a professional boxing match contested on September 17th, 2022 for the Undisputed Super Middleweight Championship, 4 years after the second one, okay? 4 years later. Okay, let's look at a little background to it first. A little background to Canelo Triple G 3 called the Build the Trilogy. After knocking out Amir Khan back in 2016, Canelo vacated his WBC middleweight title, with Triple G subsequently being awarded it. Some critics labeled Canelo as a duck for doing so, believing the Mexican was attempting to age out Triple G as much as possible. But Canelo's promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, accused Triple G's team of dismissing a career-high $10 million guaranteed payday, along with a share of pay-per-view profits. In September 2017, the pair finally fought, and despite Triple G's outlanding Canelo in 10 of the 12 rounds, according to CompuBox, the fight ended in a controversial split draw. Adelaide Bird's scorecard of 118-110 for Canelo received a large amount of criticism. Many purists believe Triple G had done enough to get the decision over Canelo and called the fight a robbery. Excuse me. The controversial outcome led to a rematch taking place in September 2018. Canelo defeated Triple G by majority decision, but although not as much as the first fight, there were still claims of a robbery, with people believing that Triple G had beaten Canelo twice. There were calls for a third fight, which took time to take place. Took 4 years, as a matter of fact. Okay. 4 whole years, setting up this third fight. Okay. So Canelo then unified with IBF middleweight champion Daniel Jacobs and became a 4-division world champion with a knockout win over WBO light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev, before becoming an undisputed world champion at super middleweight. Triple G reclaimed his IBF title with a controversial decision win over Sergey Derevyanchenko. Despite stating his willingness to face Derevyanchenko in a rematch, Triple G ultimately never pursued it and remained inactive for over a year before defending his title against mandatory challenger Kamil Seremeta, I think, or something like that. Okay, hold up. Gotta get this man's name right, so here it is right here. Y'all figure it out. Here we go. I couldn't find it. Here we go. Over him. Triple G got to win over him in between the second and third Canelo fights, okay? So, in 2022, Triple G unified the division against Ryota Murata in Japan. Remember that one? On February 25th, 2022, it was announced that Canelo had signed a 2-fight deal with Matchroom Boxing. The first fight of the deal would see Canelo returning to light heavyweight to face WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol, before returning to super middleweight to face Triple G in their third fight. On May 7th, Canelo was defeated by Bivol by unanimous decision. Now, despite claiming he would activate his rematch clause and face Bivol again, it was announced on May 24th that Canelo and Triple G would fight a third time, 5 years after their first fight, live on DAZN, with Triple G moving up for the first time in his career to do so. Your Triple G had been at middleweight his entire career when he went to super middleweight to fight Canelo in the pay-per-view sparring match. That was the first time he had left middleweight in his entire career. Yeah. So this was a short one here. On the fight night, Canelo defeated Triple G by unanimous decision with the scores of 115-113 twice and 116-112. First unanimous decision of all 3 fights and the clearest decision of all. Triple G was 40 then, and yeah. The fight proved to be the most lopsided as well as tactical in the 3 fights, with Canelo easily controlling most of the rounds. The scorecards generated controversy once again, though, this time with most believing they were too favorable for Golovkin. This time they said they were too close, favorable to Triple G this time. So the aftermath, again, a clear win very clear win for Canelo this time. Okay. On February 8th, 2023, Triple G vacated the IBF title after being ordered to face mandatory challenger Esquiva Falcao. On March 8th, he relinquished the WBA title after being ordered to face regular champion Erislandy Lara, who's fighting this weekend. On June 14th, Triple G vacated his IBO world title. IBO president Ed Levine announced, IBO is really trying to become one of the major sanctioning bodies. And there you have it, the Canelo Triple G Trilogy. Okay? Look at that. 3:30 on the dot. Wow. Okay. Oh, yeah, summary. I was wondering what that was. Yeah, let's summarize this thing up real quick, briefly. Summarize the trilogy up. Okay. Now, the boxing trilogy between Canelo-Alvarez and GENNADY Golovkin was one of the sport's greatest modern rivalries, spanning 3 fights over 5 years and concluding with Canelo holding a 2-0, 2-win, no loss, 1 draw record. In total, the two fighters boxed 36 rounds together, with the final fight providing clarity who was the better fighter at that stage of their careers. Yeah, Triple G was 40 years old then. Okay. There you have it. That's the trilogy. Okay. So now I want to look at something. Bleacher Report, the aftermath. We're going to talk about Bud Crawford for a moment, momentarily. Okay. Bud Crawford, Canelo situation, since we got some time. And then the top 10 super middleweights currently, since that's where Triple G and Canelo's last fight was at. We're going to talk about the top 10 current super middleweights in boxing. Okay? Okay. Monday afternoon. Here we go. Okay, I don't know which one. Is this it? Nope. Okay, bear with me for 1 second, please, everybody. Okay, I'm working on it. Yeah, here we go. Okay, yeah. Terence Crawford's win over Canelo Alvarez crowns him as boxing's true king. Okay, everybody agree with that? Crowns him as boxing's true king. There was still better than 6 rounds to go, but it was over. Well, if you're a fancier of body language, anyway. When Terence Crawford emerged from a tough 5th round against Canelo Alvarez, one that a majority at ringside figured he lost by smiling and sticking his tongue out at his Mexican foe while lashing him with combinations to start the 6th round, you could tell the uber confident and hyper-competitive Nebraska sensed he was onto something. And the flow state he carried through the back half of the fight ultimately led to another show of emotion when he dropped to a knee and cried upon hearing that he'd earned a unanimous decision and toppled Alvarez from his 160-pound throne. It was unlikely, given pre-fight odds and the practical reality, that Crawford was fighting beyond 147 pounds for only the 2nd time and past 154 pounds for the 1st. And he was doing so against a guy who not only won all 4 worthwhile super middleweight belts, but one who also never lost in a dozen fights in the weight class. dating back to 2017. Okay? It never lost in that class. It was unlikely, which meant what Crawford won goes far beyond the hardware he toted from the Allegiant Stadium ring. He's not only a king in a fifth weight class, but of the whole sport too. And according to analyst Max Kellerman, really has been all along. Every era has that guy, said the ex-HBO sideman, who dusted off the tux and returned to a ringside perch alongside former colleague Andre Ward and UFC veteran John Anik. We have people who lived through Michael Jordan's era. Try telling them that LeBron is better. Well, Bud Crawford is it in this era of boxing. Looking back at his career, it is reasonable to say he has been the best pound-for-pound fighter for the last 12 years. Almost no one who has ever lived has ever done that. Yeah, pound-for-pound 12 years in a row. Okay. Crawford won 8 of 12 rounds on one official scorecard and 7 of 12 on the other two, sweeping the final 2 rounds across the board to guarantee he'd improve to 42-0 and lock in the sort of high-profile swan song that his pound-for-pound predecessor, Floyd Mayweather Jr., had after beating Manny Pacquiao and Andre Berto in 2015. No, he didn't officially announce his retirement in the ring afterward, but he sounded an awful lot like a guy who'd accepted his last challenge, completed it, and was ready to reflect on a 17-year career's job well done. Thank you to all their supporters, he said, and thank you to all the haters. You all made this happen. Given his personality, probably more so the latter group, the haters. Described by former HBO blow-by-blow man Jim Ladley as maniacally competitive and echoed by Kellerman as defectively so, Crawford said the seed for Canelo was planted 2 years ago. The seed for Canelo was planted 2 years ago when he heard, prior to their welterweight showdown, that eminent foe Earl Spence Jr. was already chatting up the idea of his own Canelo fight. Okay? Yeah, Bud heard Earl was trying to get that Canelo fight. Spence was subsequently beaten into a one-sided submission in July 2023. And Crawford, who fought just once since a notorious defeat on 154-pound belt holder Israel Madrimov last summer, spent the subsequent 13 months calling for, agreeing to, and then preparing for the fight with Canelo, who'd arrived with 63 wins in a career dating back to 2005. The winner moved well, flurried often, and most importantly, never wavered under the typically withering pressure exerted by his 35-year-old foe. He took single shots with little sign of damage and was never stationary or inactive long enough to let Canelo deliver the prolonged volleys of shots that had doomed title fight foes from 154 to 175. Afterward, it was Canelo suggested he put more on the line, taking the fight. That's what I do. I take risks, Canelo said. I feel great to share the ring with a great fighter like Crawford. If we do it again, great, but my legacy is already set. Crawford is a skilled fighter. He's a strong fighter. Max Kellerman's post-fight assertion aside, it's been a contentious few years atop the pound-for-pound heat, given Crawford's inactivity and the significant multi-weight accomplishments of both Alexander Usyk, who's become undisputed champ at cruiserweight and heavyweight, and Naoya Inoue, who's won belts from 108 to 122 pounds, while winning all but 4 of his 31 fights by knockout, and is also 2-time undisputed in the 4-belt era, Usyk and the Monster. Now, the Ukrainian Usyk has gone 4-0 against British behemoths Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, while Inoue, billed as the Monster, has racked up undisputed status at 2 weight classes and been lauded as a guy who could climb multiple rungs like Pacquiao did. But none of their obstacles have been as daunting as Canelo, a Hall of Fame bound star who's got a 4-weight and keeps jumping. None of their obstacles has been as daunting as Canelo, a Hall of Fame bound star who's got a 4-weight championship pedigree of his own. And unless a new boogeyman suddenly emerges around them, it's difficult to imagine any foreseeable foe could be. Which makes Kellerman's assertions about Crawford even more accurate. This generation will say about him what the last one said about Floyd, and what generations before them said about Sugar Ray Leonard, Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson. No one could have beaten our guy. He's the GOAT. Bud Crawford. He's the GOAT. Okay, let's look at the top 10 currently active super middleweights right quick. Okay. Start with number 1, 1 through 10. Cash Sports currently active top 10 super middleweights. Number 1, Terrence Crawford. Number 1 is Bud Crawford. We just talked about him. Let's go to the next one. Number 2, Canelo Alvarez. We just talked about him in the whole trilogy. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 is the Cash Sports current top 10 super middleweights. Number 3, Christian Mbili. Christian Mbili. Christian Mbili. Bear with me. Anybody know how to spell Mbili? Okay, here we go. Christian. He's number 3. Okay. Christian Mbili is a Cameroonian French-Canadian super middleweight boxer. Born in Cameroon, he moved to Quebec in 2006 with his parents. He competed in the 2016 Olympics, but was eliminated in the 3rd fight. Okay, currently fighting at super middleweight, the professional level. Number 4, ALVAREZ Iglesias. Okay, there he is. ALVAREZ Iglesias is a Cuban professional boxer and IBO super middleweight title holder since December 2002. He fights out of Berlin, Germany, and has defeated notable opponents like Gleb Bakshi, Arlen Lopez, and David Morrell Jr. He's also a 2-time gold medalist in the Cordova, this is talking about amateurs, in the Cordova Cardin tournament. Iglesias has an upcoming fight scheduled against Petro Ivanov. He's also expressed interest in fighting the winner of the Canelo-Crawford fight, which was Crawford, okay? But I don't think you're going to get that anytime soon. Armando Resendiz is number 5. Armando Resendiz. Great card this weekend, though. Wow. Pitbull and Lamont Roach, great matchmaking. I love it. And wait for that one. Jose Armando Resendiz Garcia is a Mexican professional boxer and the current WBA super middleweight champion. On May 31st, 2025, he defeated Caleb Plant in a split decision upset to win the interim WBA super middleweight title. Resendiz fights out of Compostela, Mexico. His foundation style is boxing. Details about his college education are unavailable. Yes, about his college education. But anyway, yeah, he got WBA. I didn't know Bud had vacated in him, but it says he's the WBA super middleweight champion. He was the interim, current WBA champion, regular. Okay, wow. Number 6, Lester Martinez. Billy Lacey is Resendiz. Wait a minute. Lester Martinez. Okay. Lester Martinez. All right. Lester Martinez is a professional boxer from Guatemala City, Guatemala. As an amateur, he won a silver medal in the junior welterweight division at the 2012 Youth World Championships and a gold medal in the light junior welterweight division at the 2012 and a gold medal in the middleweight division at the 2018 Central American and Caribbean Games. Martinez has recently solidified his reputation as a rising force in the super middleweight division. Lester Martinez. 7. Go ahead. Start laughing, y'all. Caleb Plant. On the right there. Yeah, Caleb. Number 7. Caleb Plant. Number 7. Yep. Caleb Plant. Okay. Caleb Hunter Plant, American professional boxer, who has held the International Boxing Federation. He had the International Boxing Federation super middleweight title from 2019 to 2023, and the WBA interim super middleweight title from 2024 to 2025. He lost that one to, who was that? Resendiz, who's now the full WBA champion. Yeah, I believe Resendiz was the one to beat Caleb, right? Number 8, William Skull. William Skull, number 8. Arnie Boxing. What's up, Arnie? How are you? Haven't seen you in a minute, Arnie. Wow, salute. Arnie Boxing. Everybody subscribe to Arnie Boxing as his channel. Coming on at night, 9-10ish. Salute, Arnie. We're looking at the top 10 current super middleweights. We finished the Canelo trilogy. Yeah, okay. William Skull is number 8, super middleweight. William Skull, number 8. There we go. William Skull is a Cuban-German professional boxer who held the IBF super middleweight title from 2024 to 2025. Remember, they stripped Canelo and gave it to him, and then Canelo beat him and took it back. Now, despite being an IBF mandatory challenger, Skull was relatively unknown, even landing a spot on the undercard of Canelo's title defense against Jaime Munguia in May 2025. Or was it 24? Some consider his only notable wins was a mystery and question how he reached the mandatory position. Yeah, and was the full champion, remember? He stripped Canelo. Yeah, I think that was 24. Canelo and Munguia, right? I meant 24, I'm sorry. Because he fought Skull in 25, right? Number 9, Vladimir Shishkin, right? Had to be 24. Vladimir Shishkin, because he fought Skull in 25. Yeah. The Vladimir Shishkin is a Russian professional boxer. He challenged for the International Boxing Federation super middleweight title. Okay, Shishkin. Yeah, number 10, I'm gonna go back and give you the records in a minute because Diego Pacheco is number 10. And then we'll be finished. That's Shishkin. I forgot to change it. That's Shishkin. Diego Pacheco is number 10. Okay. Diego Pacheco. Diego Pacheco. Is Diego? Diego Pacheco is a 24-year-old American professional boxer of Mexican descent who competes in the super middleweight division. He considers his heart and determination to be his greatest assets in the ring. In 2023, Diego headlined 3 fights in 3 different countries, winning by knockout against Jack Cullen in England and Manuel Gallegos in Mexico. He also defeated So Cold by unanimous decision. What's So Cold's name? He beat. Let's get So Cold up here. I can't even remember the man's name. I don't even know why they on there, but I'm gonna tell you in a minute. Stephen Nelson in the United States. That was the 3rd different country. Stephen Nelson, remember? Okay, the records. I forgot to give you all these guys records. Then we're gonna go. Diego Pacheco is currently 24-0 with 18 knockouts. Vladimir Shishkin at number 9. Oh, well. Going backwards, man. 10. Okay, number 1. Review. Terrence Crawford. 42 wins, no losses, 31 knockouts. This is Cat Sports top 10 super middleweight. Number 2, Canelo Alvarez. 63 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, 39 knockouts. Number 3, Christian Mbili. 29 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 24 knockouts, 82.7% knockout ratio. Number 4, ALVAREZ Iglesias. 14 wins, no losses, 13 knockouts, 92.8% knockout ratio. Number 5, Armando Resendez. 16 wins, 2 losses, 11 knockouts. Number 6, Lester Martinez. 19 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 16 knockouts, 84.2% knockout ratio. Number 7, Caleb Plant. 23 wins, 3 losses, 14 knockouts. Number 8, William Skull. 23 wins, 1 loss, 9 knockouts. Number 9, Vladimir Shishkin, 16-2, 10 knockouts. Running out the top 10, Diego Pacheco, 24 wins, no losses, 18 knockouts. That knockout rate might be something. There's what's up, BBO. BBO in the building. Salute BBO. Tonight at 8 p.m. BBO Sports TV. Salute. Yeah, we looked at the Canelo Trilogy and just did the Cash Sports top 10 at super middleweight. Pacheco, I was trying to see what his knockout ratio. That might be something. 18, 24 wins, 18 of knockout. That's, what is that about? Probably 70 something. Yeah. Might be 80. No, I don't think so. 75%. Still ain't bad. But you hope everybody enjoyed the trilogy today. Tomorrow we're going to look at some wasted fighters with wasted talent. You know, some of them are in the Hall of Fame, but still didn't reach the level they could have reached. Okay. For example, Hector Camacho, Edmund Rosario, you know, some very successful fighters are going to be on the list of wasted talent. Okay. But that's going to be tomorrow. Wasted talent. Hope everybody enjoyed today's show. We got that big card this weekend. Roach and Pitbull, Cool Boy and Oshaki. Frank Martin on the card. We got Lara. What Mike Rim was talking about, I forgot already. GENNADY, yeah. GENNADY and Lara is fighting. So good card, man. And some more. Don King, okay, BBO. Yeah. Don King, that's a good idea. Okay, I'm writing it down. The Dawn, yeah. That's probably be Wednesday. They give me a show for Wednesday. So we got Wednesday covered. Don King Wednesday, brought to you by BBO Sports TV. And then Thursday is going to be boxing in Japan. It's boxing in Japan. This is the first Friday of the month, so we're going to do an active boxing. It's either going to be Naoya Inoue or Olusanda Usyk. This Friday, we're going to take a look at Naoya Inoue or Olusanda Usyk. Wait a minute, let me see. Let's see. Let's do boxing coming up in like 2 minutes from now. I hate when these phones do this, man. Off of it. That's going to be our next 2 months, though. What was it last month? Shakira, wasn't it? Yeah. Shakira Stevenson last month. Look. Come on. You only got to work for 2 more minutes. I talk to my equipment like they people. Okay. Anyway, let's see. I'm looking over it right now. Yeah, I think it's going to be the monster this weekend. I mean, Friday. Usyk could be next month. And then again, let me see. Usyk is older. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, let me get ready to get out of here. We'll know by Friday, but tomorrow is going to be wasted talent. And Wednesday is going to be Don King, brought to you by BBO Sports TV. But appreciate everybody. BBO Sports TV, Irony Boxing, Sam N4OB, Mike Mazik, Mike Rim, Just Do Boxing, Thomas Hill, Miguel Daza, Kensaw Love One, Jaw, the Real Hattie, the Drunk Irishman, and Miss Cass. Appreciate everybody for stopping by, supporting today, as y'all always do. Appreciate y'all 1,000%. Subscribe to all these great channels in here: BBO Sports TV, RNA Boxing, Just Do Boxing, Drunk Irishman. Yeah, all great channels. Okay, Just Do Boxing coming up in like a minute. We'll be back tomorrow. with another one. Because if it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Everybody have a great afternoon. Just Do Boxing up next. This is Cash Sports, the Boxtorian. Appreciate y'all 1,000,000%.